Bam, we're live.
We're so live right now.
It cracks me up every time. I love that Sevon does that. Bam, we're live.
Where's Tristan?
I don't know. Who cares?
Okay.
I sent him the link. He'll be on. All right. Well, we got the team in town for quarterfinals. I made a nice little thumbnail here. Should I show the thumbnail this way, Harley?
Sure.
Nah, we'll just show everybody. I don't use Photoshop anymore. I'm not gonna lie to the people. We'll screen share. Let's see Canva projects. There we go. Oh yeah, this is our live show. Check it out.
Wow.
So cool. That's the coolest. That's how we make it. But anyways,
that thumbnail.
The team is here. And we're going to talk about team quarterfinals a little bit. Oh, let's see. We got here he is in his car.
Yo.
Oh man, breaking the law.
I know. Criminal.
Using his cell phone microphones. Car play.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
Cool.
All right, guys. Team quarterfinals. We'll talk about it a little bit. We got the team out here from the West Coast. It's pretty interesting. They wanted to train and do the quarterfinals at sea level for Mr. Harley. Pretty wild. Isn't it wild that you don't have to do the quarterfinals in the gym, but you have to do the open in the gym? What do you think about that, Tristan? You have a team, right?
Yeah. I have like kind of two teams and change. I don't know. It's weird. I don't coach everybody on all the teams, but I have several team athletes. I don't know what the point is.
Yeah.
If you're not going to make them do quarterfinals at the gym, why make them do the open at the gym?
My only observation with that would be any other year whenever they've had like a rope climb or multiple GHDs in use at the same time, some affiliates don't have access to all the equipment in one location. So
oh yeah,
that's the only argument I could make for them. But otherwise, I agree. Like, it doesn't necessarily align, even as someone who is utilizing it to my advantage. Like, it doesn't necessarily make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're smart, if you train at elevation, like in somewhere in any country that has elevation or the U.S. has elevation, it would be the smartest thing to do is find a gym that would host you and your team not at elevation and then do quarterfinals because you're going to get a bump in performance. But I mean, that does take time, resources, everything else. I wouldn't even say it's like a super team thing. It's just more of a luxury thing. Like I played lacrosse club, but that's like a rich kid sport. Same thing like hockey. People argue like the opportunity there is primarily based on your income. Similar thing with CrossFit, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, 3.5 teams, huh? So that's like 3.5 stars.
I mean, I guess. Yeah. So I coach Madison, McElhaney, and Taylor Patterson, and they're on Coda Iron View's team. And then I coached 3 of the 4 people in the East on CrossFit Addicts team.
Nice.
And then
what did they finish?
31st.
All right, cool. So I can text you when their scores since they're on the East. You'll let me know.
Yeah, we can share scores.
All right, cool.
We're so in right now.
It's helpful. That's something we could talk about. How helpful is it? Sharing.
Oh, it helps a ton, especially if you have somebody who's on the other side of like the other region.
Yeah.
Because you're not a competitor. So like, even if I was, let's say my addict team is like shitting the bed, so I'm like, I don't know if I really want to share their scores. I have a team in the West or East that's not like, if you have a team that's not a direct competitor, it's so helpful.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter.
Do it both ways.
Well, since you're coaching 2 different teams, like say hypothetically they were both in the same region, it's still in your best interest to still share scores with both those teams to help elevate both, as long as it's a 2-way street, not just going one way. And if maybe the circumstances that one team's going to be a shoo-in and like you just know they're going to make it and the other team's like a bubble, then you can utilize the people that you know are that next level to elevate the lower level team.
Yeah, I would have, if they were both in the same region, I would kind of have a conversation just with both teams, like, hey, are you guys comfortable with me, like, sharing scores with everybody? And if they were, then that's obviously most ideal. But then even if they weren't, I would still know the scores, and you could kind of do that coach thing where it's like,
You got
say
to
one of the teams,
hey,
yeah, say one of the teams puts a score in, or they tell me, and it's way far off from the other team. It's like, maybe we should redo that one.
yeah, forget what in 2022 when Marissa went with her team, Elle was coaching half the team, I was coaching the other half, and then Jay works with training plan. He was on the team, but they did some workout, and I forget which one it was. I wish I remember. But like Elle, a text that came through, I was like, yeah, you guys got to do that again.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, dude.
Yeah.
You're like,
All right, well,
as a coach, you're like, oh, they did terribly.
yeah.
That's funny. Well, all right. Well, what do you guys think about Noah, Tyler, Heather? Any thoughts about what you guys have heard for quarterfinals and equipment? And what do you think the team? Because you guys don't coach any team and you're not on a team. What do you guys think they're in for? I want to hear your opinions on it. Any guesses, thoughts, suggestions, do's and don'ts? Damn, you guys are pivoting.
Yeah.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm waiting.
Go ahead, Tyler.
No, I don't. I've never, like, we had this discussion with the open workouts. Like, I have no idea what to expect with them. But just, I honestly think, like, to Harley's point of, like, that makes a lot more sense of why they would require him to be in the open in the gym, but not for the quarterfinals. I never thought about that, but I don't know. I always just wait and see what the workouts are before I try and figure them out.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough because everything I've heard that, like, I don't even think there's gonna be any GHDs or rope climbs, but the team could be completely different. But because they made the statement that you are going to be able to do quarterfinals in your garage, like that's, and then you could also do them in the affiliate class setting within an hour. That also makes me a little nervous. Like being an affiliate owner for so long. So it's just a continuation of the open, really. Now it's good for some people. I have some athletes, so I'm like, oh yeah, you're really good at the open. So like good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's going to be weird. Do you think that the quarters for team is going to be vastly different than for individuals?
I mean, I think it might be. I think it might be just because they're going to have more free reign of the gym, right? They're not really like having the constraints of like class and stuff like that. So I think that they can potentially be a little more, I don't want to say like creative, but like I think there's a lot more that I think that they can do. Because I think to your point, like we talked a lot about not doing GHGs or rope climbs or things like that would be too challenging in like a class setting to be able to run multiple athletes through. So I don't know. I think it's just going to be like an extension of the open as well. I'm hoping that it's not going to be as like fitty fit as the open was for my own personal bias, but I don't know. We'll see.
I wonder what the implications are there. Like, let's say they do rope climbs and GHTs and stuff like that for the team, and then they don't have it for the individuals. What do you think? I feel like there'd be a lot of backlash.
Yeah,
because the individuals don't get to do this stuff.
But they're going to have opportunities to do that in semis if they're good enough.
People,
I mean, yeah, but I mean that's one of the reasons why some of my guys want to qualify for quarterfinals. They want to do GHDs and rope climbs and compete with everybody in that. So I think that kind of, to me, because I didn't hear that statement before, where it's like you could do it in your garage and during a class time. It's like, well, dang, that's not what people originally thought it was going to be. So yeah, I think there's going to be some backlash there.
Yeah, but the only reason people didn't hear that statement is because it's on the affiliate call, and like no one's flipped up that affiliate call, like it hasn't, and then CrossFit hasn't put it out to the public. So like only the affiliates, if you were on that live call, like had that information. And it's just like not out there yet. mean, it's out there because like Chase and Bill Grunler talked about it because they were on the affiliate call also on the Get With the program. So, I don't know. Well, Tristan, what do you hope it's going to be for the athletes? You think it's going to be like garage style CrossFit or like the old stuff?
I hope there is some skill. Obviously, I would love to see GHGs and rope climbs. Maybe that's because I did enjoy how quarterfinals was in the past. I don't think it's necessary to test those things to qualify the right 30 teams and the right 40 individuals to semifinals. I think it adds a lot of robustness to the test, though. I was talking to one of my athletes yesterday. I think the teams is hard to say because they do have a little more freedom, I think, paired with a little constraint of it being team workouts. But I think the individuals, we're going to see probably a lot of workouts that were similar to the more aggressive open workouts of the past.
Yeah.
16-2, 17-3, the 25, the muscle up, wall ball, row, like those really intense open workouts of the past. I think with some time gates for weights or things like that, I could see things similar-ish to that, which I'm okay with. I wouldn't want to be the one programming these workouts because I feel like they've backed themselves into a corner.
Yeah, I think that as Heather was talking and just listening to you guys, I was reflecting on like the past 5-week opens, back in the day. And they were great sets of tests, right? Like you were able to test really well-rounded parameters of fitness, without including those higher level implements, machines, ropes, etc., that you would see at back in the day regionals, right? I still think that like if that was to come out, they could still program really, really effective testing body with a wide range of loading, still get some skills in there with some rings, etc., handstand walking, and still get the right people through and create this like separation value that we didn't see in this year's open.
So you're saying it's going to be boring?
I think fitness.
No.
I think fitness is going to prevail regardless.
No, I don't. Man, I have hope. I guess I have faith that Dave and Boz can thread the needle. If they don't test their program moves at quarterfinals high skill, that's risk that the athletes make it. Yeah. So, but she brings up a really good point. Like they don't want people at semis who can't do the things that they're going to program at semis.
Yeah.
At least to some degree. Obviously, the bottom 10.
Yeah, but hold on. Then the thing is like, okay, well, what about individuals then? Because like, if you're going to use that argument for teams or whatever, if they don't test rope climbs, like, how are you testing pulling? And are you going to even have rope climbs at semifinals? Like, and then you won't have them at the games. Like, you might have somebody who gets through who has a huge like legless rope climb limitation. Get to the. I mean, what am I saying? Brooke or whatever. Sydney Wells.
I was literally about to bring that
up. So fuck.
Like Sydney Wells, Bryn Curlin are multiple examples of women who have made it to a semifinal level or above who have really poor ring muscle up capacity relative to the best. And that's not to like tear them down, but that's just a hole in the fitness that we've observed that relative to the people who are phenomenal at them and are games level athletes, they're just not the same. And so they've messed it up even in the wider breadth of quarterfinal testing of not including the right movement patterns or certain level of skills. So I think as long as they're testing ring muscle ups, the rope climb should be assumed, right? Like they've done it in the past. Like they've never shied away from that. Even when we talk about the 5-week open, there was only ring muscle ups then, if at all. And the people at regionals were either punched in the face and sort of like exposed at that moment, or they were able to, excel.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I agree a lot with that.
Yeah. What do you think the chances are that they're like trying to go backwards to go forward? Because we talked about this a little bit as, I want a lot of athletes to understand this. Like back in the day, everybody who did CrossFit a long time ago, it would go open right to regionals. And I'm talking about rope climbs. There were no rope climbs in the open to regionals. They would test them in person at regionals. And each region, they were smaller and only took 30. But like you could break it down, like the 120 they had last year that go, and then this year it's 80. So it's a little bit less. But the 120 in the US or North America was still a pretty comparable number of athletes going to regionals when they brought them down into super regions. So it wasn't like it was any more or less competitive. I mean, you could split hairs on numbers if you want to make an argument over it, but they did an online competition that was 5 workouts, and then you go right to in-person competition. So people who are arguing now about like, oh, the test needs to be really good, this needs this and that. It's like, well, does it though? Because like historically it wasn't all these things with like the rope climbs and the GHDs and this and that. And like, yeah, they got more robust over time, but I would say even from 2013, 2012 to 2017, they're pretty simple in nature of workouts, and they got the right people there. So I think we do also need to keep that in mind to remember that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was really hoping you were going to say something good.
No, I feel like you just repeated exactly what I said. Like
Yeah,
ago,
I was just trying to use like historical thought process of like, are they trying to go backwards? Like, is Dave trying to go back to that old school CrossFit? Like with them doing Nasty Girls the old way with the low rings, even though a lot of people didn't watch that, it was very confusing in the open for the golden barbell and like the day ahead. But like, are they trying to bring it backwards a little bit? I think they made a huge push in the conversation around Jeffrey Adler doing .com throughout the year. I think they made a big deal about that, which is good. You should do .com workouts and look at .com, but I don't know. I am speculating and just trying to see if there's like writing on the walls. What do you guys think?
What do you think, Tristan? What do you think,
He's
Noah?
thinking about
Waiting
it.
for somebody else to go.
They're thinking about it.
You're the special guest.
I do think I think that could be true. There is a lot of truth in what you said about the tests of the past not necessarily being these incredibly robust tests and still getting, the right people to regionals and then the games and so on. I think you could make a small argument now that the competitive field at large is a lot better.
Yeah, but do you think we just like expect too much? Because like we don't say that about 400-meter runners, and they're all gonna run, hundredth of a second within each other, and we don't say that like, oh, the 400-meter runners have gotten better, and then like, so we gotta change it up or make it harder. Like they gotta, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a single modality sport though. It's been around
I know. I'm just saying like raw fitness level. Like, is it?
Yeah.
Are we at the point now where it's like, okay, intensity matters, the old school workouts matter, and the best of the best are going to move at the maximum rate of travel, and that's whoever has the best day or whoever has the best setup or whoever, did all the things, slept well, nutrition, hydration, all the other stuff, stress management, and are able to execute? Is that where we're getting to? Because I feel like a little bit we're at that point.
For the 20th place to first place at quarters, yes. For the 21st to 40th place, no. Those people still have holes. They still like, if you want the right 21 through 40, you need not the right test, but I think a well-rounded set of tests, because that is what our sport is.
But does it matter? But does it matter? Well, that's true. That's a good one.
I agree to a degree. I think really that bottom sort of that bubble athlete range, if you want to call them that, even in the top 40, well, it's a bubble of, of the new standard, the new cut line. Yeah, I think that you definitely have more holes at that point. The holes are, the higher up the leaderboard you go, the holes are smaller and smaller or non-existent, right, for the best in the sport. And even they would argue that they have some holes of some form. I think that the bottom 40 to 60 last year, they were disappointed with how many people, without like being too aggressive, sucked, right? Like they didn't do phenomenally well at that semifinal level in that set of tests relative to the top. There was a huge disparity between 50 and first, or 50 and top 10. So to make the right people get through, the tests matter greatly. I think that for someone like myself, I got through because I was fit enough in the moment and I had the right set of tests. I got semifinals, had a hard time. I didn't help that bottom 20 look good,
Yeah, but
well, I was gonna say that was like the exact thing that I was gonna say, that like that bottom half is not necessarily always the right people. And I know we talk a lot about, Todd, like how like winners win, right? And it's like when you like actually like get the right people in that environment, right? Like it's like we were saying, like when people get to semifinals, then they start like training and acting and competing, like they've already broken that barrier, right? So now that they're like at that level, being able to like train and compete. But it's like if they never actually get to the opportunity to break through to that level, right? Then you never actually have these next like group of athletes that can come up and actually potentially challenge the top 20 grouping, right? And so I think that if there's always like this disparity, it's like you're always going to have these 20, but you're going to be missing out on so many athletes, like bringing them to that opportunity to challenge at like that next level, I think. And I think just from a purely selfish standpoint, it's like you go and you watch semis and it's like, it's not really like, everyone like packs the stands because they want to watch the last two heats, right? And so it's like you at that level, it's like you want to see 40 athletes that are just like crushing it, because you know how hard it is to even just break through and like get to that point. So I don't know. I mean, I agree that the top 20 is gonna like always gonna be elevated, but it would be nice to have it where they're all, you're like the 40 place athlete is still challenging in some capacity to the top half, right?
I like that.
Do
I
you
think
guys?
about, we were watching the March Madness, the top 8 last night, and the women's basketball. Everybody, we love it up in my house. But I think about this like in sport, and I know like we talk about this a lot in CrossFit of like, oh, it's got to be the right test, the right people to get through, or like it's got to give everybody this fair opportunity. But then you watch these girls play basketball last night, and like they get one game and then they're like knocked out, and they got to perform. And I like that in sport, that like you got to do that. I don't necessarily, and I know it's like a hard comparison, but as a coach, it's like for me, and I know this is hard to hear, and like you guys touched on, like being more professional. The top 20 are more professional, but like to get to that spot, you have to become more professional. I would rather some of these 200 people in each region to go, wow, I'm 200. That's a great honor. I'm going to take this serious all year. For the next 365 days, I'm going to work my job, and then I'm going to do CrossFit. And I'm going to say no to everything else that doesn't get me closer to CrossFit, if that's your goal, right? Because you know that these women in the NCAA for women's basketball are doing that to get that opportunity to be out there and get smashed on, or just barely lose by a couple of buckets. And they're putting everything, they have into this thing, and they're only doing basketball and they're only doing school. And I like when sports get that competitive and people take it that serious. I don't necessarily enjoy CrossFit the way it is right now with like the hobbyist of it all in that top, like even 500, I would say, in the region, or, wherever you're at. I'd rather you take this really serious. It makes it easier for me as a coach. It's going to be more enjoyable to watch. And to Heather's point, if that happened, those 40 would be that good. If the 500, 200 top people in each region took it that serious, where they live, breathe, eat, sleep CrossFit. And that's a choice. Like you don't have to spend your life doing that. But I think if people took it more serious, less hobbyists and less hoping that they'll break into the bubble, it would be. And there are a lot of people taking it really serious. I don't want to like discredit that, but I watch a lot of athletes who are really close who don't go all in, the way like NCAA women's basketball. I don't want to hate on women's basketball, but like, we hear the talk. They barely got to use the March Madness logo for the first year this year ever, right? So like they've had to come up in their sport and representation of female athletics. So it's the same thing with CrossFit. Like you're an underdog in athletics. It's a fringe sport. No one's really looking at it. Like, but those women have been doing that for years, and now they have the March Madness logo, and they're going ham in basketball. Those games are fun to watch. I think we, as a coaching staff and athletes, need to take that approach. If we want this thing to become more professional, I think it would be coming from us, not from CrossFit, not from these other things. It's coming from your attitude and what you bring to the game, rather than asking for someone to make it more professional for you. Like when you guys say all that stuff about these fringe people and the right test, that's like where my brain goes. It's like, why are we such, I like that. I want those things to happen, but I also don't want to be babies. I want us to like approach the sport more professionally. You guys are nodding your head. Someone say something.
I think that I'm just thinking about Heather's comment about like people gaining opportunity to push the top people in the sport. And that makes me think of a conversation that Todd and I had back in 2018 about momentum. And like, there's something to be said for people gaining momentum over time alongside with the perspective of, I want to be more professional. I want to be the higher level person. If you gain an opportunity to gain that momentum, as well as, you know, live a lifestyle and have a state of mind that you're going to become that person, I think those two in conjunction will help elevate people, right? So this is just a hypothetical idea I was just thinking about, because we went from, you know, top 40 or 60 per region to 40. And Todd mentioned the 120 in all of North America is what it was, being relatively similar to super regions back in the day. What if they were to keep it 120 and instead of going 2 regions, went 3 regions, had like a central, an east, and a west, instead of like, and then it's still super regions, still got 120 total people opportunity, and it's still only 40 per semifinal. Because I do think 60 was far too many at each semifinal last year. It was very diluted in the viewer experience for a couple different events. It was harder for them to stream the whole floor, you know, many considerations. Even as a participant on the floor, you look down, you have no idea who's winning your heat. Like there was 20 of us out there. It's like a mile long floor plan.
I just got it. Who knows the guys of TFX? They could run the central event. Dude, this is good.
Well, I think the only problem with that and why they've probably not done that before is because they always talk about how it's so expensive to like run those events, right? And put those events on and have like the equipment and all that stuff. So I feel like I like the idea. I think that's awesome. I think
as you
that's
charge more
why,
registration dollars.
yeah. And I
Solve
think that's
as you
why
charge
CrossFit
more
hasn't
money
done
for
it
spectators.
before that way, is because it's just another semi or regional or whatever that they're going to have to put on. And
yeah, I mean, they technically cut from 4 to 2 though.
That's
and
true.
They, you know, in that sort of light, Mac and Syndicate are run by the same people and the same equipment and the same venue even.
Yeah.
And so they just host them on 2 separate weekends, but they were already able to run 3 separate, you know, governing bodies of whatever the competitions, right? That level of competition. You already have 3 people who were willing to do it last year or 2 years ago. So like, why did you cut 1 to 2? And then, you know, it's, I feel like the solutions are there, and you have people who want to run these things. That we've had enough of them in the past, and we have, you know, some that are still continuing to grow. Wadapalooza is adding a West Coast, you know, to their, you know, season, their opposite end of the calendar year. So why couldn't we find someone to run a third? You know, that's all hypothetical, but it would still give more people opportunity to gain momentum and have those highlight moments. And I think, to Heather's point, momentum is really important and crucial to elevating people. But to Todd's point, the people are also responsible for elevating themselves to a degree as well.
Yeah, you got to have it all. That's what's crazy. I think that's why we're all frustrated. It's because we see that there's not those things happening. And the easiest thing to do is, like, as coaching staff or athletes listening to this, is like, become a professional, like go all in and stop complaining about this, that, or the other, and having some, oh, CrossFit's not doing this or the affiliates aren't doing this. It's like, why don't you do more on your end? You know, stop going to all these parties on the weekends or whatever, you know, stop taking vacations.
But it's fun, Todd.
I know. I don't want to. I said they don't have to. You don't have to do that. Like, because like my basketball analogy, those girls, that's all they're doing, you know. And if you're like, hey, look, I'm going to do this for 4 or 5 years of my life, the same way you would with high level athletics, you go all in and do it, and then hang it up and just do recreational CrossFit. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's also the other fear, you know. And this would be, and we're going in the weeds here, but, and I don't know how much you want to talk about like Kelly Baker, but it's one of those things. There are a lot of athletes that I don't think they feel good, and I applaud her and people like them who are like, I'm just going to be done with it because I want to do other things. She wants to try and have a baby. It's like, but I think there was probably a lot of fear and anxiety trying to go into that. And I think that's true for a lot of athletes. I think they're like, what do I do now that I'm done? It's like, well, nothing. You did what you wanted to do. You spent your time doing it. You crushed it. Be proud of that and like move on. There's nothing wrong with, that. I think there's people who like you can see quit. There's a difference there. Like she's not quitting. She did the thing. She went to the
Right.
CrossFit Games, crushed it. Be very proud. Change your life. Other people who like get really close and don't want to go that next level. Those are the people I'd be like, hey, hold on, we got to have a conversation. You're just quitting because it's getting really hard. You're getting squeezed and you don't want to go all the way, which is very scary and tough. But I think at the end of the day, leaving the sport or not being competitive is really hard for a lot of athletes. And
I agree with that. I think that I'm just thinking about the people that, what if they feel that they have truly given all that they can and they still don't make it? Because I think that's actually a real conversation that probably needs to be had for a lot of people, is that like,
that's why you have a one-on-one coach.
You may never make it, and like that's okay, but you still try. Like it's still about the pursuit.
I mean, as a personal example, that was me. I did nothing but train for 4 years. I had no money. I was poor. I coached. I went to school. Every waking moment of my time was spent on getting better at CrossFit to go to semifinals, or regionals. And, life circumstances at some point started to turn that page for me. But I think being honest, I don't know. I heard Mike Israel on a podcast with Chad Wesley Smith way deep in the YouTubes years ago. And he just flat out said, he was like, most people who want to be elite at something or professional at something aren't going to make it. That's the truth. But you're going to have a hell of a lot easier time turning the page when it's time if you go all in on it.
Yeah.
Because then when it is time to turn the page, you can be like, hey, I did everything I could.
Right.
Everything I could think of.
Right. There's no question in your mind that you gave everything you could. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like if that's where you're at. Todd and I had some pretty good conversations last year at quarterfinals for myself. And like, I remember seeing where I was at after the first core submission. I was like, holy shit, like didn't expect that, well, better go retest that clean and jerk workout. Retested it, reached failure, had a breakdown, was like, dude, it's been so long. Like this pursuit has.
You got a cry tally on the
I
cry
had
tally
a cry
board.
tally. Yeah, I shed a tear.
Grown man cried.
And then
it's perfectly
dude,
acceptable.
I was in it because I was like, man, like this is the closest I've ever seen my name to that bubble line ever. And I was like, it's been like 8 years of this idea in this dream. Like it's been a long time. And like it was what it was. And fortunately it works out in my story and it didn't work out in Tristan's, unfortunately for him. But like
he's too tall. Someone should have told you you're too fucking tall. I don't know who was coaching you, but
I didn't have a coach most of the time, dog.
I would have just said like, yeah, you're too tall. Like, and you might be able to break through. Like, look at Brent, some other people, but like, you're too tall.
But I think that I was just gonna say, I think that's something so important though, like what Harley's saying, like about how it just happened to work out for him and not for Tristan. And I think that's like something really important for just athletes that are like listening, or like any of our athletes that have to like actually recognize, because I think even just going through the open, right? Like I had multiple athletes that were just like, I'm done, I'm quitting, double unders are the worst, like whatever. And I'm like, and like they don't actually like maybe realize that like Harley took 8 years to get to that point and was like whatever, right? Tristan trained for 4 years, and I think that people like lose sight of that as well, like how long that it could actually take to get to the goal that they want, and they may never even get there. So it's like even just accepting that what you're doing every day, like you're doing that because you love the pursuit of actually getting better, you love the pursuit of training and like working yourself to like, Todd always says like, what if, like, can I do the thing, and I think training with that perspective more so of like this like end goal of like where I want to be, right? Like, can I go all in? Can I be this athlete? Can I do whatever and see what actually happens? Because, I think the hardest thing is like telling athletes that like you may never get that goal. Like it may never happen for you. I mean, we don't like want to say that that's the reality, but for most people it isn't. Like they just take 40 people or they take 60 people or whatever it was. And so I think just like getting people to understand that too, because it's like it's great that you have these goals, but a lot of it's just out of your control too. I mean, you have to just control what you can control in your daily and your life, and like what the things that are in front of you, right? But I think it's like that's super important for people to realize because and again, Carly, you always talk about you had the right test at the right time too, right?
Yeah,
So
but like I said
And I
about
was also
Harley,
fit enough in the moment.
yeah,
But
there you go.
like I did everything I could in the off season to give myself that opportunity. And to be perfectly transparent, throughout the off season, that January we went to Wadapalooza to support Marissa and Paige and CJ. And people asked me what was my goals for the year, and I was like, I may not even compete this year because I was like burnt out and I was run down and I was really tired and coaching more or whatever. I didn't know. And then like I showed up obviously to quarterfinals. I still trained. I still checked all my boxes every week and still tried, but I didn't feel great. If you asked me how I felt, my perception was that I was not in my best spot ever. And yet the right set of tests came out, but I was in a good enough spot. And obviously I was the fittest probably that I'd ever been, but it didn't feel that way. If you see yourself every day and you don't ever actually like have a good gauge of where you're at in the moment, unless you can refer back. And really the better you get and the smaller your holes get, I think it's harder to actually realize those measurable goal like data points. They're nuanced, and really it's more about economy and like becoming better at the game rather than better at all of the parts. Because for example, like I PR'd my back squat this year for the first time since 2018. My strength metrics have been strong for a long time. In 2019, I did 30 bar muscle ups unbroken. I did 27 this year. Does that mean I'm less fit at gymnastics? No. I'm arguably more economic and better at putting them together into the game because of the years and years in practice of playing the game.
Yeah.
The components are metrics and they are valuable, but that doesn't mean that they are the end all be all of what your fitness is. And so the better you get, the harder it is to tell on paper if you're getting better.
Yeah.
Like
I think so many people struggle with that. There's a couple things like Heather said, like the the what if. I always tell people what if, like twofold there. Luck favors the prepared. So Harley was prepared. He had a lot of luck on his side. And he made the semifinals. He's a phenomenal athlete. The other thing is like, you brought the double unders example or whatever people get frustrated with. And I would say like you got to continue to ask yourself what if and keep training. You shouldn't throw it in the towel because you suck at something. You should throw in the towel or say, hey, I'm done with competitive exercise, similar like Tristan, because you have pushed all those metrics out as far as you possibly think you can push them out, right? So if it's like you can't do 20 double unders, like that's not a reason to stop trying and stop saying what if. Now, if you're able to do 300 unbroken and then you're not able to do some other things and string them together in workouts, it's like, well, there's still a problem there, but like maybe at the end of the day, we're like a 4.2. You did all the double unders unbroken in that workout because you're so good at them. But then the deadlift was a challenge and the row was a challenge. Well, you still have opportunity to grow and keep competing. Now if you're like going through the workout, you're rowing at, let's say you're a male athlete, 149, and you're going deadlifts unbroken and you did all the double unders unbroken and you're just not that good. And then score wise, and then everything else, you do everything else and you're just like right on the cusp. It's like, okay, well, you might need a one-on-one coach or dive deeper, or like, Tristan realized over time, like, I just might not have it, or what Harley almost might have had to come to, or Tristan just didn't get his time. He just didn't get the right set of tests at that moment that he needed it to keep going. So it's a crazy thing to think about, and you don't have a crystal ball. And even like Harley's saying, like the minute scale of like,
Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up. I think it's.
Go ahead.
Oh, you're good. I was gonna say, like, you don't know what you don't know until you go through it. Like hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
So even for myself, like I use this as an example and look back on my journey now, knowing what I know now, seeing how it went, I can say, oh, I messed up there, and I messed up there, and I messed up there. And maybe if I had done those things differently, had a coach, et cetera, the cards might have fallen differently, and I could have been in a position like Harley was, where I was prepared to take that opportunity when I got it, right? When you guys were talking, the saying came to mind, like, fortune favors the bold. It's like, you can't take an opportunity if you're not prepared for an opportunity.
Yeah. But Tristan, you can also do masters. You could do it.
I'm thinking about it.
I mean, that's also
I'll have
beautiful.
5 years to train.
Yeah.
So
That is one thing to remember in the sport. And we coach a lot of masters, and I know you actually got a question on your Instagram, I think the other day, about doing a masters track. Like there's a ton of opportunity in the sport too, for all ages, which is really cool. Really, really cool. It's very different than any sport. I always ask people in the gym are like, why should I do the open? Because there's nothing else that you can compete in at this age and really go for it and send it and like improve yourself. Because you're not going to go out and play pickleball competitively. Sorry, not going to. It's just, or you're not going to just like, oh, I'm going to get drafted in the NBA tomorrow. Like, nah, dude, not happening to you. So you should sign up for CrossFit.
I did want to. This kind of loops back to what we were talking about with quarterfinals. And
yeah, good.
The opinions on the workouts and the tests and this, that, and the other. I think it's important for athletes and other coaches. I know you guys definitely take the same mindset, and this is a conversation I've had with my teams already and a couple of my individuals. When the workouts come out, our opinions don't matter. Like, that is our task, and we will go execute said task, and that is it. And when it's all said and done, we can yell at the sky, and people can get as Cheeto fingered as they want on the internet, but it just doesn't serve you to get emotionally invested on whether you like them or they're good for them or they're not, like, whatever. When the workouts come out, and this is very much like the military side of me, is like, this is your task. Go execute. Your feelings are no part of this equation anymore. Just go do your job. So
figure out why you suck and stop sucking. Figure out why you suck and stop sucking.
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah, no, that's really important, and especially as we get ready for quarterfinals for the team and then individuals. Really, everybody is like, the work's done now. Like for the next week and a half, you can work on things that might improve a skill a little bit of capacity, but really, like, I would try and find things that challenge you a little and give you confidence at the same time. So you want confidence builders and challenging things, so you're not punched in the face when that heavy barbell comes, or they do a ton of ring muscle ups or whatever that is. And so just get ready for that, because we're not going to know what these workouts are. And like Tristan's saying, don't complain about what they are. Just figure out how you're going to best approach them and get after them. I wish there was more out so we could speculate and have a good time with that and like make up workouts. I think it's just going to be a lot of .com workouts in general, similar style stuff. Like we just did this .com workout for Sunday Saturday. It was 50 dumbbell snatches at 75 pounds for men, 50 for ladies, which I think was a little unfair. And then 50 step back lunges, remaining time of the 10 minutes, max cal row. Easy workout, heavier dumbbell. Will separate the fit, the wheat from the chaff. And I think that you're going to see stuff like that, which is going to be cool. If we're going to speculate, just generally, I think that's what I think we'll see.
I can see that.
Yeah, Adrian, they shared a little clip of a podcast with Adrian and who was that? Chase Ingram yesterday. And he was saying that, like, oh, the tests are going to be fun and that most people can do them. Like, people like me can do them. And then he kind of like pauses and he says, kind of. And it's like, well, so that sort of implies there's going to be some separation value. But to Todd's point, like, the fittest are going to prevail through a .com workout. Like, if it was a simple 9-minute AMRAP of, I think the conversation we had last night was like box jump overs and handstand push-ups, a Jeffrey Adler is going to still wipe the floor with an average Joe, right?
And
like,
the 90 burpee to a touch and 45 bar muscle.
Yeah, like anything like that, the fittest in the world are going to just excel far ahead of even that top 100 quarterfinals athlete.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, for sure. They could program 30 rope climbs for time.
I saw that on .com.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks back. That's a good workout.
That would be my worst nightmare.
I love that.
3 minutes.
I would love that.
No, thank you.
Screenshot that and send it to a bunch of athletes.
Tristan, you got a question yesterday and was like, "Why are you so good at rope climbs?" And you're like, "Let me have this." I'm like, "I will."
Dude,
I would love to just see some rope climbs.
So many of my athletes get salty when there's like a rope climb heavy piece and I jump in on it and I beat them. And I'm like, guys, I'm 6'2". And I did a lot of rope climbs when I used to train way more.
Tell them to slide down the rope faster.
Yeah. What the heck?
You sound like Todd. He says that every week when there's rope climbs.
I
He
just-
jumps in and then beats everybody.
Everyone. I love rope
100%.
climbs.
It's
And
not
I will hold on to that as long as I can.
It's how fast you come down. It's
Yeah.
how fast you can touch the beam and slide to the bottom. That's really, I say this all the time. No one listens to me. I'm like, it's not about how you go up. It's how you come down and the time you waste at the top. People
or
who
waste
re-clamp
at the
and shit.
bottom. Dude,
Yeah, that too.
the old like
Harley's
hit
got
the
that touch and
ground,
go.
forward fold, step back,
Oh yeah.
big deep breath. Okay, I got to go again. And it's like, there's 20 seconds. Good job.
Hot take, rope climbs are a monostructural movement.
Yeah, it's rowing, dude.
They are because you
It-
can slow down the climb and breathe.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
Last year in
don't
that
have-
last quarterfinals workout for individuals last year ended with the 9 rope climbs.
Says the tall ass fools and the one guy with long monkey arms.
I know.
Heather's over here like, fuck you guys.
I tried to retest that one because I was like, well, leave no stone unturned. Like, let's just leave it all out there. My 8th rope climb on my retest took me 16 seconds to go up.
Yeah, he blew up.
It was wild.
It was like, well, I guess your first score has got to stand.
I
Hey,
lost it right there.
you were not alone. Jacob, when he did that, he was falling apart by his like 5th rope climb. Like
We
his
have-
grip was
we
blown out.
Dude, we
No,
had a
don't
Jacob.
talk about
No?
it. Don't talk about it.
Dude, that was a good one. We had a Jacob here do it.
Yeah, go ahead, tell him.
He touched the beam on his 9th rope climb and fell straight to his back.
From the top.
Oh,
From the
Dude, it
top.
was violent. It was wild. He was fine.
Yeah, he was fine.
He
Oh.
knocked the wind out of him, but dude,
Yeah.
it was wild.
It was
ironically, the Jacob here almost had that happen. His 9th rope climb, he had probably one pull left. He missed his feet
Mm.
and he finished it legless.
Oh, okay. Well, that's at least
Like he missed his feet, realized he missed his feet, and just pulled himself up, tapped, and then squeezed his legs and slid down. And I had a small heart attack in that 4-second window.
I had a full heart attack.
Oh, I bet you did.
I'm in the background of his video and I'm like, oh God.
Yeah,
It was good.
it was wild. Don't do that, people. Don't
Yeah,
do-
please don't fall off ropes. It
Yeah.
stresses us out.
All right. I think that was a lot, really, really tangent, but it's fine. We don't know very much. We tried to talk about it. We're sorry. Be better. Be more professional at the sport. Love what you do. Be ready when it comes. Tristan's gonna make a comeback. Don't worry, guys. Okay, his dreams are not
All
shattered.
right.
You made
You
a good
said it. I'll do it.
You made a good choice when you did, but there's still time. You're not dead
Yeah.
yet.
Nah. I've decided I do want to actually get some fitness back. We're working on it.
I could
Or-
see it. I could see it. I just know I'm such a good coach. I can feel it.
Ooh.
Wait,
Maybe I'll call you.
good
All right.
coach.
I'm just saying in general.
Cool.
I can always feel when athletes are like ready, like they're just like. I'm glad it's coming out on the podcast. You don't have to commit to anything.
I've had a good little hiatus of cherry picking workouts and not getting my heart rate above 160 beats a minute.
That's solid.
You know, we'll see.
All right, guys. Well, next week we'll have lots of stuff to talk about. Hopefully,
Facts.
Tristan's got some teams qualified, and Harley gets to go back to semifinals.
Want to get another banner.
That'd be sick.
Harley,
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were doing team this year.
Yep. As of like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Awesome.
Well, it all came together because the athlete that they had join their team was able to fly out for every single open and do the thing.
Gotcha.
I do like that though in the rules. That all you have to do is do it at the affiliate.
Yeah.
Because if you like find a good group of people, you could just because I mean it's so I don't know, it's like for anything, flying for sports or like going out. It's cool. I know people don't like it because of supers teams, but like let's be real. CrossFit affiliates aren't the way they were like in 2013. You know, so you're gonna have these like teams getting together and flying over or wherever, doing whatever, and making friendships. I think that's cool too. Like it's within the vein of the community because you go to local comps and like the competitive people meet the competitive people and then they decide like, all right, yeah, let's make a team for the
Oh
season.
no.
And whether they're at the east or the west or whatever side of the country they're on, as long as they come together and do it inside the open. I think that's cool. I think we should have more of that. It's fun. Because I don't think how many, like I would say what Invictus has some super teams, quote unquote super teams,
Underdogs.
but really, like, you know, since Rich retired, I feel like a lot of people are like, all right, like they're just not those, like, I know Oslo Navy Blue, well, Christian Harris's team's like retired, or he retired, but they don't have a team this year, I don't think.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
Conquer has, it's East Coast, but they have 3 teams, I think.
Well, I guess when I say super team, I'm talking about like games athletes coming together, making a team, like Ben Smith and the Krypton team of like Alex Smith, Ben Smith, Caroline Connors, like on that team. I think of that kind of team as a super team, which is fine. I'm fine with that. I just think a lot of that stuff.
Tola?
Yeah, that's true. Noah and Tola now. But yeah, there's a few, but it's just, I think there is more of like these, I don't know. I want to say like gunslinger cowboys just getting all together in different spots. We're like pretty good athletes, like semifinal style athletes getting together and trying to make a run at the games, which I think is really cool. It's fun. Keeps it like old school backyard.
I feel like the super team thing will just kind of always ebb and flow with who's coming out of individual, who's bored and wants to go team after they've been out of the game for a bit and stuff like that.
I mean, I feel like this topic doesn't get talked about as much as it probably should and could. I feel that teams is a better opportunity for an up and coming athlete, as well as, someone who's trying to slow
100%.
down and find more balance in their life from an individual pursuit as well.
I think more of the up and coming.
But I think the up and coming can help build so much momentum because it gives you an opportunity to get to the next stage in a not necessarily an easier way, but like a more accessible way. If you have a good group of people, can help level you up, get, on floor, high level competition experience. Like, again, momentum is
100%.
Gain momentum, man. Like
Tristan agreed with you so much. It looked like he was at a Metallica concert because he was just headbanging.
The amount of young athletes that I coach, and I'm like trying to get them to go team.
Yes, dude.
And then, I mean,
So
I don't care if I put him on blast. I tried to get Jacob to go team for 2 years before he made Indy at semis, and his just stubborn ass.
Yeah, we're not saying that you can't make it. I think the problem is, like you guys are saying, and what we've noticed is that the experience on the floor, and if your ultimate goal is individual, you take that opportunity, if there is one, earlier in your journey, you'll get to semifinals as an individual faster, 100% every single time. You might jump a year. Maybe your trajectory, and like we're speculating, is like, let's say it's 3 years, you might do it in 2 or 1 because of that opportunity, versus like, well, now I got to go to other comps and I got to do this and I got to get used to that and I got to do that. And like, that's a hard road.
Will you elaborate on what is the value of in-person competition at that higher level?
Stress,
specifically.
100% stress and racing. You just like and then also the gears. When you're out there on the floor, like I don't want to bring up myself because I really fucking sucked, but I went to regionals in 2014, and that experience changed the whole way I like executed workouts and training and like understood people's level of fitness. And it was low back then relative to now. It was still very high at the time. But like being on that team and getting last place and everything else, but just being out there and like finishing a work. I remember because there was a relay workout and like I went second and we were ahead because Jordan went first. And like my speed of travel in that workout to get us further ahead and like keeping that first place in our heat, like changed my whole perspective on how to CrossFit. And so that helped me like get better at CrossFit. And I think that leveraged my CrossFitting ability. And it's like, oh yeah, like I'm not very good, but I'm good enough that better than most people. That experience, that exposure. And then you drive into training more because of that. Like, and hands down, that is the ultimate opportunity that you're getting from it, is just being on that level with people. And then learning, how things go and corralling and stuff like that. You get that from other comps. But, oh, yeah, dude.
You got more, Tristan.
I don't know if we want to talk about this. We don't got time to talk about this.
No comment. No comment.
Go ahead, Tristan. You want to add anything?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Just being the speed at which people move on that floor is really hard to simulate in training and any other competition.
Yeah, people move way faster at those things than even like some of the best comps. You know, we were at NCC, Harley competed on a team. I had some masters and stuff. And then like even I would say legends, and they're taking over as far as the masters community, they're taking over the competition. Even then, the speed that the people moved up until now, and they're going to be faster because it's the games, but the speed that the masters moved at the games relative to legends competition, night and day, dude. And like people don't understand that. And I don't know if it's because it is like mentally everyone's like, we're at the games or like we're at semifinals, and everybody levels it up in their mind, which is like probably what's happening. But then you leverage that. So all of my games athletes who've been to the games, who are masters, when they go to legends, they do really well because they're just bringing that level of intensity. And I would say that's true for all of the people who have been to the games, or like in this case, semifinals. Any athlete that goes to semifinals of the games and like does TFX or does, Wadapalooza or whatever, they bring a higher level of intensity, and they're at the top of the leaderboard because they're bringing that mindset, that mentality, and that experience. And like, so going team, if you've never been at that level, it's just different. It's just so much different at that level. Even though you think like, oh, I'll get experience, competition experience here or there. It's like, no, dude, it's not the same. It's really intangible unless you've experienced, and you just got to like believe us and listen to us because we've done it and experienced it. And then athletes have done it and experienced it who we've coached, and we see it. And we're like, I don't know how to tell you this. You got to live it. And you just got to trust me that like you have a team opportunity. You better fucking take that.
Yeah. And I think that being selective in what events you choose to do in your off season is actually another layer to that conversation of like, who are you surrounding yourself by? Because there's a ton of people who do local comps and just like go and win. And it's like, cool. You could like half-ass walk through it and win if you are good enough, right? But if you go to Crash, you go to Wadapalooza, you go to the fittest experience on a good year whenever there's a bunch of high-level people there and you make the elite, like you're then surrounding yourself by those people who have been there, can bring that level of intensity, can actually level up not only themselves, you, but the entire competitive experience. Like make good choices in your development to set you up for actually gaining competition experience outside of just the CrossFit season, if you have goals of competing in the CrossFit season.
And, all right, next week we'll talk about training environments. That inspired me. We'll leverage off of what we talked about. And next week we'll talk about training environments and how you can get that level of training.
I train alone.
Yeah, you suck. You got to move here.
I suck.
All right. That was good, Tristan. Thanks for coming on. You're probably
Thanks for having me, guys.
probably gonna be a regular because you like it. So I'll just keep sending you the link.
I just like to talk shop with cool coaches, man.
Yeah,
You
and then
we're cool.
we're at 58 minutes of our time, but Noah and Tyler, they're getting ready. They're learning how to come out of their shell.
They're chomping at
I'm gonna give you guys such a hard time until you come out of your shell. You got so much good stuff to say. I just feel like sometimes you're like, we're on live. I'm scared now.
Dude, I'm just like soaking it up.
It's not that. It's just there's a flow that's going on here, right? It's a flow, and it's a good flow, and it's a flow coming from experienced coaches that know what they're talking about.
I appreciate that. I just watch more Sevon with like Taylor Self, and just then just hop in, dude. Just
channel your
I love when Taylor chops in sometimes, just some bold ass statement. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
It adds value. So if you want to be that person, you go right ahead. I would love it.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of value in this one. I hope people watch it. If you made it this far, thank you. Like and subscribe, and follow all of us on Instagram or any other social medias that you guys might have. There's going to be a ban on TikTok, so don't follow us there. I don't have TikTok. Don't really care. I read it this morning that they're actually going to ban it. Not for this show, though. We'll see you later.